Welcome back. Talks at the CCMA to end the strike by FlySafair pilots resumed this afternoon, and FlySafair and Trade Union Solidarity met on Wednesday until late into the night to try to find each other. Pilots want a 10.5% salary increase and a revised roster for the workers, while the employer is only offering a 5.7% increase. SABC News reporter Katlego Legodi has been watching developments on the story, and he joins us now in studio for more on this conversation. Katlego, thank you so much for your time. You have been pretty much following the story since its inception. I mean, it's been almost now a week since we are seeing, this strike kick off at FlySafair. Let's start off here. We understand that they are still in talks. Can we see, a solution to this crisis?
A very good evening to you, Bali, and to our viewers at home. As we speak right now, the parties are still locked in these talks. And it's not a surprise because on Wednesday, we saw these talks go well into the night. They are trying to find each other and to just bridge this impasse, because more or less both of the parties from earlier on in the week, they were saying that it would not be their wish to see this strike prolong and go into the second week. But that is what the pilots from Solidarity had really threatened to push it to, in saying that this strike action would be for 2 weeks. This would have implications, of course, to the economy, also the passengers. Earlier on in the week, the frustrations really boiling at some of these airports, and you get a sense as well that the airline is operating under immense pressure as well to try by all means to find each other with its workers. These are very important key figures where the airline is concerned, and what we know as well is that Trade Union Solidarity enjoys the large share of the pilots, the workers, in terms of those that would be embarking on this strike action. For instance, the airline FlySafair has about 300 of the pilots. 200 of those belong to Trade Union Solidarity. So this begins to give you a sense of the impact of this strike action if it prolongs, and they're trying to find each other. What we know and the messages that we're getting from the parties is that the talks are at an advanced but a sensitive stage at the same time. This is whereby they're trying to find each other in terms of the working conditions. For instance, again, the wage increase, the monies, the workers are saying that they would want to be well compensated. Hence, we saw them starting these negotiations at 17.5%. They moved it down to 10.5%, and the employer is still at 5.7%.
Katlego, what seems to be the bottleneck here when it comes to the demands from the workers? And what is the employer willing to entertain? And, where are they seemingly not willing, to stretch themselves a bit more further?
We saw the employer just coming out to say that what the workers were calling for is not practical, is not feasible, saying that the operation of the airline have really been struggling as well since the COVID-19 times. But the workers as well arguing to say that our argument actually starts from the COVID-19 times themselves, because around that time we saw FlySafair move to dock 10% of the pilots' salaries, and which is why then what informed the 17.5% in them starting all the way up there. They were trying to make up to say that as much as we saw you taking away the 10% during COVID-19 because it was a sensitive period for the business, there was somewhat of an expectation that this money would be returned back to these pilots. And these pilots have since been really trying by all means to negotiate with the employer. But something that is also just apex here, Mbali, would be the roster, the rostering issue. They were saying to us as well that actually that is where they would want to start the negotiations. They, as much as we see them talking about and worried about their wages, but the working conditions is what really more or less becomes at the heart of where we find ourselves now. They want the employer to revise the roster so there's flexibility in terms of the workers being able to spend more time with their families. And one thing that we know as well is that FlySafair enjoys around 60% of the market share, meaning is the largest airline in terms of domestic air travel. So if you look or you go into the OR Tambo International Airport or even Lanseria here at home, you'll see the board. I think our in, hour out, 30 minutes in, 45 minutes out. There's always a plane moving, a FlySafair plane. So there are people that are there moving these planes, and they're saying that, looking at the fact that there is somewhat of a dominance here, the workers would want to be really given time to spend time with their families and have time out and the likes and rest. But the employer coming through to say what the roster is about is in line with the industry standards, that there's nothing untoward in what they had changed, because it was not the same. The flexibility was there before, but then the employer moved to change the conditions. And they were saying as well, the workers, that this is a matter that was already at the CCMA. So this strike action follows what was already tabled, whereby the CCMA had given them somewhat of a certificate to strike and go to the streets challenging the roster. So they had said to us even earlier on in the week that they are willing to move around and be flexible in terms of the, that figure of 10.5%. But where they would want to start these negotiations is where the employer then would come in to reverse the tweaking of that roster.
And Katlego, before I let you go, quickly in a nutshell, you say that FlySafair enjoys at least 60% of the market domestically. When it comes to the impact this has had, what is the impact? What does it look like?
It was earlier on in the week when I asked Kirby, because Monday was the most frustrating of days, even for the airline, because they had thought, even from last week, they were telling us that they have contingency measures in place, allaying fears for those that may be walking into our Tambo on Monday as the strike started. But you can tell on Monday that things were not operating the way they should. 26 flights grounded from them. And even on top of it, we know very well that they've had to now initiate somewhat of a firm agreement with SAA that has since stepped in to help them in moving some of their passengers. This is something that they say it's recognized also under the Labour Relations Act. But we see the CCMA pushing to bring the parties together well into the night. As we speak right now, they're still locked in these talks to try by all means to bring this strike to an end. Hopefully by the end of the day or going into next week, we'll be telling somewhat of a different story, as there are expectations as well from our passengers.
Hopefully. I mean, I've been seeing comments on social media from passengers who rely on the services of FlySafair. And that's SABC News reporter there, Katlego Legodi, just giving us an update in terms of that strike action by FlySafair pilots.